I've been wounded, I've been scorned, I've burned flames and been reborn.
The story behind the song Wounded actually starts in the summer of 2008 when California legalized gay marriage. And immediately, politicians and religious leaders tried to get a bunch of signatures so that they could put on a ballot in November that would take that right away from everybody. And at the time, Alfred and I had been together for like 8 years, and he said to me that we should get married because if it's up to the people, they're going to take it away. And I all of a sudden brought up all these ideas about marriage that I hadn't even thought about. One, I never thought about it because it was never legal, and I hate the separate but equal thing, and which was what the domestic partnership at the time was for. And I hated that thing. But Alfred and I did that because he said his insurance was better, so we did do domestic partnership. But I still hated the idea of it. But the marriage thing was new, and I had always had these, all of a sudden these ideas came to me that, well, marriage, like, if you want to leave, you can't leave if you're married, but that wasn't a problem because I didn't plan on leaving. And if you're going to get married, you should be married forever. And that, again, wasn't a problem because I had no reason to leave someone I was in love with and that was in love with me. And so I thought, well, fine. Yes, you're absolutely right. We should get married while it's legal, while we can do this. If you're right, they'll take it away. If you're wrong, we will be married. And I am all for that. So I had to do it really fast, though, because there was a limited time between, like, June and November. But when I started planning the wedding, I wanted to get married in West Hollywood. That's where we met. That's where we live. That's everything. And they did it at the City Hall. But they only did it on Thursdays, so we had to make a schedule. And everybody was getting married that could, because suddenly you could. And we couldn't get in until October. So we got married on 10/9/8. So it was actually perfect, because that's a great, great date. And I didn't realize, right up, I swear, right until we were standing there in front of the officiant, I think that's what it's called, that saying all these things, and looking at Alfred, I couldn't believe it. It's the most important thing I think I've ever done in my life, and this ring on my finger is the second most important thing in my life, other than the actual person who gave it to me. It was amazing, and I'm so glad that that happened, that brought us to a legal marriage, whatever. We were always going to be together, but it was more important than I thought it was. Which then, not even a month later, the ballots came through and everything happened, and yes, they took it all away. There was no legal way they could do it right away to take away all the 10,000 people that got married, or 10,000 couples that got married, but nobody else could do it. And it made me so mad. I couldn't believe it. And that's when I sat down and wrote that song. Because the main reason that this stuff happens is because of this religious hypocrisy. And it drives me insane. Like, our country is a separation of church and state. It says you have every right to practice your religion. But you do not have the right to make everybody else practice that religion. And so for people to come in and say, this book tells me this, and you're wrong, and I'm right, it drove me insane. And so I wrote these lines. I said, you can't change what is true. You cannot change my love and Alfred's love for us and everybody else. You cannot change that. That is the truth. And hiding behind a book, and then to say bad things, like, because this book says this, I can say this, and you are wrong, and I'm right. And that you're just going to waltz into the pearly gates, and they're going to, look what I did to all these people, and they're going to say, oh, that's fine. But me, who is in love, and who has a marriage, and all this stuff, we're going to burn in fire and brimstone. And that's why I wrote those lines about, I'm going to walk right through your fire and brimstone, and I will find my way home. God will carry me home. Because when you get to those gates, if you believe that stuff, God is not going to ask you what I did. That's on you. ugh, it still drives me so nuts. So that was those lyrics, and the fact that you can't take that away from me. You cannot do anything more to me, because I am going to be fine. I'm still going to be happy. I'm still going to rise up and fight. Or not even fight, just rise up and be who I am. And you can't, all of this stuff, you can't take that away from me. So those are the premise of the lyrics of all of that, and why those lyrics became what they were. Musically, I always had it as an acoustic song with a couple synth, like, points in it to make something a little exciting. And I always liked it that way. But then I thought, well, maybe it should be a little more dramatic and theatrical. And so I had a friend come in and sing some, like, angelic voices and stuff, and put in some orchestration, and it didn't work. Like, I thought maybe it should just be simple. I want those lyrics to really speak. And then, so I didn't like anything. I went back to the original, and then when the whole album was mixed and I was ready to send it off, I sent everything to Devin, because he should have gotten an executive producer credit because I sent everything to him. But I sent him the song, and he heard the song many, many times. But this last one I sent to him, he said, well, I have an idea for this song. And I thought, oh my God, that's great, because I love his music, I love his instincts, I love everything about it. And so I said, yes, please, do whatever you want to do to the song. And I thought, really in the back of my head, I thought, well, if I don't like it, I will have to tell him that, but I will also have this other mix that I have, which is just the acoustic guitar and me singing, and it'll be great. But then he worked on it, and he sent it back to me with all the guitar and synth work and his back vocals, and it starting small and going big and then going back to small. I'm like, this is so great. Like, it either had to be super simple or something like this, and he made it something like this, which is amazing. I loved it so much. It is one of my favorite songs, and it works so well because the lyrics are so important to me, and it's an important song. Years ago, when I was working on the album, and I had all the songs planned, and I even had the track list, the songs weren't done, but I knew what they were supposed to sound like. My friend Tara Fisher was visiting LA, and I made her listen to the whole album, and she listened to it all, and I always had Wounded in the track list. I knew where the track list was, and it was the second to last song ever. And when she got to that song, she said, this song should be number 3. She's like, 3 is always like dramatic or a big thing to change chorus or whatever, and she thought it was a big important thing. So that was always in the back of my head. And so when I finally did finish the album, and it was all mixed, and I was coming up with a track list, I knew I wanted Lonely Calls to You as the first song, like it's a rock song, and it was going to be the single. And then I thought, well, we should try something, because there's so many different sounds on this album. We should try something different. So Suck Out the Sun should be next with the little piano intro. And then I thought, oh, well then we should start the third song with Wounded. And so that you would have the rock song, an intro with a piano, and then the next song is an intro with an acoustic guitar, except for then it goes up, and then it goes down, and it goes up, and it would be so amazing. So I owe it to Tara for coming up with the idea of putting that song as number 3 on my track list, because I'm really impressed with the track list I came up with. And so that is most of the story behind the song of Wounded. But Devin is kind of here to also tell you about what inspired him and what made him do the music for Wounded. So I will give you over to Devin.
Hello, this is Devin Tate, and we are going to tell the story behind the song of Wounded. So when Bradley approached me with the song Wounded and the demo he'd recorded of it, I told him I wanted to work on this because I thought it was such a raw, emotional song for him, and I really thought that I could help bring out even more passion in it. So I started out by just kind of going through and mixing it and kind of adding some little things here and there. And then I thought, you know what, I hear a whole other part to the song. So kind of inspired by the song Winter's Over by Tiffany, where there was kind of two different parts of the song. I thought I wanted to add kind of more of an epic instrumental part. So I took what Brad had and I just kind of cut it and inserted this new part in. And I think that it fit really well, but I totally told Brad it was up to him if he wanted to keep it or if he wanted me to take it out. But I think it worked great and I'm really proud of this song. So great job, Brad.
I've been strong.